an educational session for us, as we have Brother Omar Azam, also known as Omar Al-Afghani, who will be teaching us, or we'll be going through, inshallah, the merits of the Quran. You know, a wondrous book that came down as a mercy to us, not a book that we shelve, not a book that needs us. It's a book that we need. So inshallah we've come today to gain inspiration, you know, motivation to carry on reading and looking to the Quran for answers. As I said, Brother Omar is from Afghanistan. That's the name, Al-Afghani. He came here about when he was the age of 14. Brother's now 26. Throughout his life, he's been learning about the Quran. He's been learning the Tajweed. He's been learning the Arabic, even in Afghanistan, in Saudi Arabia. But the brother took a more serious turn about 4 years ago when he started practicing. And in those 4 years, alhamdulillah, the brother's taken, you know, great strides to where he is today, where the brother has memorized 3 juz of Quran, you know, in 4 years. Well, the thing about 4 years when he's taken a serious test, 4 years, 3 juz, which is a feat. I will tell you now, which is quite a big step. And inshallah, you know, we hope the brother inshallah becomes a hafiz of Quran, and you know, helps us out one day inshallah. He also teaches Tajweed. I've been to some of his sessions actually. I remember he used to teach in Kali Mosque. Hope inshallah if you do go there, you see him around. And he wishes to move further on, you know. This is not just enough. He wishes to inshallah go into the learning of tafsir and inshallah become an ustad of tafsir one day as well. So without any other delay, inshallah we'll get on to the important stuff, you know, motivating ourselves inshallah to, you know, gain knowledge from the brother as well, to help us in, you know, learn the Quran, memorize the Quran, you know, turn to the Quran when we're in need. You know, sometimes living here, we see issues and whatnot. Just stop. What made you turn to the Quran?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah alladhi anzala ala abdihi al-kitab wa lam yaj'al lahu 'iwaja. Praise to Allah for actually gathering us in this kind of gathering. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us one of those gatherings that the best of angels actually goes around and comes to a gathering where Allah is mentioned in those gatherings. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this very educational for us and make us a path to paradise, inshallah. As the brother was mentioning and introducing me, I started memorizing less than 1.5 years, and I managed to memorize 3 juz. And I still think I'm one of the slow learners, and I think it's not enough as a Muslim to actually have this kind of attitude to Quran. And I think I should have done a lot more, and inshallah this is what I'm doing. For us, when I was coming actually here to this kind of gathering, wallahi, I was feeling a little bit shy. I was like, Quran is supposed to be every drop of blood that runs through our veins, not something that later in our life we go around and try to learn it. Quran is supposed to be our soul, okay, not something that we forsake it, just like what the Prophet ﷺ said. And when we look at the life, our life, and Sahaba life, they had one heart, we have one heart. They had exactly the same way, the same body as we do. So the question always lies in our head, why is it that Sahaba expanded Islam into the entire world? Why were the Sahabas the ones who were guaranteed Jannah, while they were walking on the face of this earth? These are questions that when I started practicing, these questions actually came to my head. What is it? Were those people not human beings and we are? Or did they have extra brain that we don't? Or extra body part that we don't? The question was no. Sahabas were learning 10 ayahs a day. Okay, 10 ayahs each time. And they will not go on to the next group, the next 10 ayahs, until they know those ayahs properly. Just the way we recite Quran, just the way we memorize Quran. They were memorizing it too. We recite Quran, they recite Quran too. It's the same Quran. The same Quran that we read is the same Quran they've read. So what is it that we are in this state, but the Sahaba was not? Why is it that Sahaba were more value? They had more value than us. But in the end of the day, we're both Muslims. And the answer to myself, and I will actually share it with you, brother, and this is the reason why I'm here, is that we don't understand Quran. The thing that we don't understand, and the reason why we are like this, is because we do not understand Quran. And those people, every ayah they read, they were reading it and questioning it until they actually understood the meaning of it. So they memorize, they apply. Not memorize and that's it, they recite and they put the Quran in a nice cover and look after it, and later on a dust will be piled on top of it. They were not those people. They didn't have Quran written, but they were observing the Quran from the mouth of the Prophet ﷺ in a way that when someone would make a mistake, the other person would tell him, no, this is not how Prophet ﷺ read it and recited it. You should be reciting it this way. This is the level of observation. Now when we come to Quran, why would someone return to Quran? Every Nabi, every Prophet that was sent to mankind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him with miracles for the people, for those specific people, for that time. For example, Musa alayhi salam, in his time there were a lot of magic. We're not going to go into a lot of details. Magic was a type of thing that was very popular in his time. So all his miracles that we see, those are sort of magic. They look from outside as if it was magic. For example, Musa alayhi salam was told, take your hand out, and when he would take it out, it would be a very bright white. بَيْضَاءٌ لِلنَّاظِرِينَ. And it was the stick. He threw it, it became like a snake. And this was an astonishment for the magicians at the time. And again, Isa in his time was cure of disease and bringing people. It was more of a scientific thing, more of a science and biology. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the miracles of bringing someone into life. These were the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There were a lot more. But the Prophet ﷺ was given every kind of miracles. Because the Prophet ﷺ came as a rahmah to lil alameen, to all mankind, to scientists, philosophers, everyone. So he had all of the miracles, every type. Okay, he pointed at the moon split into two. And one of the Sahabi one day was, once upon a time, he was injured in one of the battles. His eye was fallen out, and he was hanging on the vein only. And the Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim ajma'een, they decided to take it out, to cut it, because it was finished. You couldn't see with it, and it was literally hanging. They would just pull it. They brought him to Prophet ﷺ. Prophet ﷺ, what does he do? He pulls it back and he put it into place and he supplicates Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he would, the eye will start moving, and there's some narrations that when you look at the person, that Sahabi, you wouldn't know which eye actually there was something wrong with it, which one was fallen out. These are the miracles of the Prophet ﷺ was given. But one of the biggest miracle, the physical miracle that we have, is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the Quran, what we're going to talk about today. And we know that Prophet ﷺ was the last prophet, the last messenger. There's going to be no prophet, there's going to be no book, holy book after it. So this means the Quran that is revealed to us, it is eternal. It is going to last until the day of judgment, for all this time. It was the same Quran that was valid in Sahaba time. It's the same Quran that is going to be valid just the day before the judgment day. So if this deen is eternal, if this Quran is eternal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that this is a perfect way of life. Quran has a perfect way of life. But the biggest question is, if it is, are we living the life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala got for us? Are we living the life that we're supposed to be living, like how Sahaba did? Are we really living the life of dignity and value? And this is why Quran is so important, and this is why it really attracted me to this book, because this is the actual base and heart of our life. If you want to live a perfect life, a happy life, then this is the book to follow. And this was the reason why it really got me to a level where I literally stopped every other nonsense for this theme and for this book.
MashaAllah, that was quite a story in short, MashaAllah. You spoke about the Sahabas and their attitude towards the Quran. You compared it to how we are today. Could you give us some examples of Sahabas that took this to different, took it to another level? Something we could gain motivation from.
Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in, there are a lot of stories to speak about them. Their love for Quran. They used to kiss Quran, just not the way because we were told or we were brought up. They will kiss Quran and they will say, these are the word of my Lord. These are the word of Allah. This is the way they were believing in it. And once upon a time, in Umar radiallahu anhu's time, there was a man came from Iraq, and he had a book of stories. Not stories of Quran, just stories, normal stories. And where does he come in Medina? He comes to the Masjid of Nabawi, the Prophet ﷺ's mosque. And Umar is the Khalifa of the time, he's the ruler. Okay, he comes in and he starts telling the stories, the fairy tale stories like Layla and one of those stories. So Umar radiallahu anhu comes into the mosque and he asks Sahaba, who is this man? What is he doing here? And the Sahaba ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in, they said, oh, he's just man from so and so. He brought a book called blah blah blah, and he has stories to tell us. And he looked at him and he told the Sahaba, get my stick. And Umar radiallahu anhu had a stick which he would hit shaitan with. And when he hits someone who disbelieves, they would say, Wallahi nashhadu anna al-mulka lillahi jami'a. We bear witness that the ruling is only to Allah, and Allah is only the ruler. So they will forget about what they were doing, and it will actually change 180 degrees what they were thinking. This is the stick, and this is what Umar was using it for. So they go on the stick, and he told this man, we got a book that is eternal. It has the best of stories in it, and the best of hikmahs, lessons for us. We don't need this rubbish that you brought us. Go and tell your teachers and your leaders to stop this nonsense. And he started hitting him one hit on his head and one hit on the book until he literally ran out. This is the love that they had. And once upon an occasion, Umar radiallahu anhu was passing amongst these archers, people who were training, and some of them missed the target. And Umar radiallahu anhu asked him, look, you missed the target, what's happening? You know? And they replied. In their reply, they had an error in Arabic. They had an error in Arabic. And the Umar radiallahu anhu told him that this error, obviously there were a few of the words in ayats, and they were trying to be more of a classical Arabic, like the Quranic type. So when they replied and there was an error, Umar radiallahu anhu told him, to perfect this error is more important than you getting the target. Forget about getting the target, you perfect what you said. And this is their attitude to Qur'an. Whenever they hear something in a different way, they'll always go and criticize it. They'll all observe Prophet ﷺ in the best way. The women at the time, how did they memorize Qur'an? Just by listening. When Prophet ﷺ used to lead at the front, they used to be right at the end. This is where the women used to pray in the same Masjid al-Nabawi. The men used to be at the front and the women used to be right at the back. And they used to hear him and they memorized Qur'an based on that. So just imagine what type of attitude and observation was actually taking place in their time. But there was no writing, it wasn't written. It was just verbally. So I don't think there's any more need of explanation how it was observed, how their attitude was to Quran.
Because we know that the book came down and changed these people. And you spoke about the miracle itself is the Quran. What ayats of the Quran personally do you find you spoke about the stories, the man came with the stories and just brushed them aside. There's also other stories about, people coming and challenging, but the Quran brushing them aside. Do you have any ayats yourself which inspires you?
Wallahi, what can I tell you? I mean, I memorize 1.5 pages every week. And wallahi, every ayah that I memorize, I literally take a few hours to actually think about it. And when I stand in my salah and I recite Surah Al-Fatiha only, let's keep the rest of the Quran on the side for now. Just Surah Al-Fatiha. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Okay? We submit to Allah in full. And we say that we're not gonna worship someone except you. And when we come to our life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, His commands are, don't do this, don't do that, keep away from zina, don't lie, don't have the character of munafiq, don't have an agreement with someone and then you break the agreement. And we still do it. Does that mean that we're fully worshipping Allah only? Really, I mean, I want you guys to take a few seconds actually think about what we're reciting every single prayer. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. We thank Allah for what He has given us. Do we really take other time to actually thank Him? If we're really thanking Him for what He has given us, then when we get a bounty or something nice, do we actually take a time and pray 2 rak'ah sunnah to thank Him? Really, this is what it means. This is how you understand, and this is how the Sahaba understood this Quran. That whatever you recite, you know it, and you believe in it. You don't recite it just for the sake of it. And to them, This Quran was everything. Library, source of education, science, medicine, everything. Literally everything. It's not like a libraries where we have hundreds and thousands of books. They are only one book. And who invented science? Who invented physics? Who invented maths? This is the observation how they observe this Quran. And for me personally, wallahi, there are a lot of ayats. A lot of ayats. And especially...
brothers here, me myself personally, and maybe some brothers here, will actually hear, inshallah, if you recite some ayahs for us, something that inspires you, inshallah.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. The meaning of this ayah, just this ayah, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the angels that I'm about to create a Khalifa in this world. Khalifa? What do we understand Khalifa of Allah? Is the person who actually follows and obeys the ruling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he rules based on Allah's ruling. This is what Khalifa is. So when Adam was there, alayhi salam, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and the Sahaba, the Khulafa al-Rashideen, then the meaning that a lot of ulama takes from this, that every single one of us is a Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what does that actually mean? What does that actually mean if we are Khulafa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This means it's our job to obey this message, to obey Allah's rules, and actually spread the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this ayah literally took my heart away when I came across it. And we know when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Iblis to make sujda to Adam, and he said no. And it was that ego that stopped him from this, because he thought he was better than Adam. This is something that we all should be actually reciting this ayah every single day, so it can help us in our every day-to-day life. That you are no better than someone else. Because it doesn't mean for you to practice and come to masjid doesn't mean you hate the ones that don't come. Or if we don't go to masjid, then we hate the ones that go to the masjid. Okay, don't think like that. Because you don't know tomorrow Allah will deprive you and give him hidayah. This is the ayah that actually taken my heart away. And obviously there are many verses. It will take months and months to be standing here explaining.
MashaAllah, that was a beautiful recitation. One thing I noticed is, I think many of us may be here as well, myself personally, we need a translator. You needed to translate for us, after you finish reciting the beautiful ayah of the Quran. What sort of effect would you say that has when someone fully doesn't understand? What effect does the Arabic language itself have?
Well, for someone not to understand or strive to learn Arabic, it's like someone wants to have a Ferrari, but they don't want to work for it. Does that make sense? Someone wants to have a Ferrari, a nice house, but they don't want to work for it. So how can you understand Qur'an and Sunnah, the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without actually knowing Arabic. One of the miracles that I mentioned earlier is that one of the miracles of Qur'an, that this book was revealed to people, the poets, the best of poetry. There were people who were actually doing business with poetry. They will go to the shopping mall, the shopping place, okay, and they will sell poetry. They would fight other tribes with poetry. This Quran came to those people, yet Allah actually compete them and told them, if you think that these are the word of a man, then bring something like it. And they couldn't. So how do you think, okay, I have nothing against the people who translated it, but how do you think it's going to make exactly the same sense when a person actually translates it into another language? If Arabs themselves, they couldn't bring something like it, how can it be translated to another language and make exactly the same thing? This is something that we need to think about. I'm not saying everything that we have tafsir in English is wrong. I'm not saying that. But if you want the sweetness, to want to taste that sweetness of this deen, of this Quran, then you need to know the base. You need to know the brain. And you need to know the mean. We spend a lot of time in something that, you know, subhanallah, I know a lot of people, Muslims, they're going to learn what? French? Yeah, every time you see them, you merci beaucoup. You know, seriously, I mean, what is it? Okay, it's a hobby, but you got more obligation to fulfill. Ibn Taymiyyah radiallahu rahimahullah says that the Arabic language is from the religion, and the knowledge of it is obligation. The knowledge of Arabic is an obligation. For surely the understanding of the Quran and Sunnah is an obligation, and these two are not understood except with the understanding of the Arabic language. Okay, and listen to this one. Whatever obligation is not fulfilled except by certain steps, then those steps themselves become obligatory. Okay? It's an obligation upon us to know Sunnah and Quran. Okay? And because of Arabic, we cannot fulfill the obligation, then we sit like, you know, we relax and we sit like a carpet, like sheep. And we say, what? Because we don't know Arabic, how are we going to do this obligation? Allah is going to forgive us because He is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. No, it doesn't work like this, brothers. I'm not answering on behalf of Allah, but what I'm trying to say, if these are obligation, Arabic becomes obligation because you cannot fulfill the obligation, the original obligation. So Arabic becomes obligation. This is what Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah says. And doesn't that make sense to everyone? If there's an obligation, and it's because of Arabic you cannot fulfill those obligations, then that Arabic becomes an obligation upon us to actually strive and learn for it. And the most important thing that was actually took my heart away, that every ayah in Quran is a lesson for us. We're meant to be crying for it. We're meant to, it shows us how to love, how to interact with another. Everything. This is the complete way of life. How can we recite those ayahs without any feelings? How could we actually do that? How can we recite ayat of the adhabullah when Allah explains how a disbeliever or how a person who does something wrong commit a sin and he will be in Jahannam and this is how he's going to be punishment, and we're just standing reciting a normal as if it's just normal ayats? Really? How can we recite? How can we recite ayat of Jannah and the beauty of it, and when a mu'min does something right and Allah explains the reward for it, and we're just standing still normal, no feelings? We don't cry to strive to be that person and get to the Jannah and to the heaven, to the highest level, and ask for it. This is where the importance of Arabic comes in. But yet I know there are problems, there are political problems, and a lot of brothers I've spoken to, I've seen a lot of them. They're like, I hate Arabic. Why? Because we have rulers. Arabs are this, Arabs are that. Do not bring religion, that between you and the religion. Brothers, you need to be careful with these kind of things. Yes, we know, okay, what the Ummah is going through, the type of people we have, and the image that certain individuals, certain groups of people actually give about themselves. But reality is completely different. You need to understand this. Arabic, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran that the greeting of people of Jannah is going to be Assalamu alaikum. Now what is Assalamu alaikum? Is it in English? Or is it Chinese? No, seriously. It's Arabic. So what does that mean? And the Prophet ﷺ, there's a weak narration. I'll still mention it, but it's very weak. And this is, I didn't want to mention it, but I'm going to mention it, and I will ask brothers to actually research in this. Some of the Sahaba said, the Prophet ﷺ said, love Arabs for three things. One, because I'm Arab, and Quran is in Arabic, and the language of Jannah is Arabic. And me personally, I always had love with Arabic, because with Arabic, you cannot drive the vehicle of knowledge to get the best out of Sunnah and Quran. Without that base, you cannot go anywhere, brothers. We spend a lot of our time, a lot of our energy trying to go translation, or we don't understand it, then we go to the other person's translation, or we don't understand it, how does it mean? No. If you learn Arabic, wallahi, you're going to feel the taste of it. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala competes poets. How, just to understand how was that competition there. And when people actually try to make some of the surahs, like in Quran, like we know the Musaylim al-Kadhab, when he asked one of the Sahabi, what's it called? What was the last thing that was revealed to the Prophet of Al-Hijaz? So obviously he thought that he was a prophet in his land, and Al-Hijaz, Medina, Munawwara, and Makkah, on that land, it was a Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, and he told him, what was the last thing he revealed to him? He said, Surah Al-Kawthar, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar. Okay? And he said, don't you know I was revealed the same surah from Allah? And the Sahaba told him, okay, inshallah, where is it? And he told him, it's Surah Al-Tufah, the surah of an apple. Inna anzalna alayka al-Tufah. We have revealed to you the apple. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَارْتَاحْ. Then pray to your Lord and relax and lay back. وَدَعْ عَنْكَ الصِّيَاحِ. And then let go of shouting. This was his surah. And the kafir, the Sahabi who became later on Muslim, at that time he was a kafir, he said to him that you know that I know that you are a liar. Go and change it, get something else next time. And Allah gave him hidayah later on. But these are the type of thing that are driving people crazy. And for you to learn Arabic, you want to know that the whole thing that was happening, why they couldn't do it, why couldn't people actually do it now? To feel that sweetness and the miracle of Quran.
You mentioned, talking about the Arabic, you mentioned about, when you stand in Salah, and that sweetness that you feel, when someone's reciting, just you don't even understand what's happening, what's being said. You understand, you have that feeling from just the recitation. But like you said, without learning Arabic, how do you drive the vehicle of knowledge? You know, without Arabic, how do you fully understand what Allah is saying? You know, He's talking about the martyrs, He's talking about what you get in the hereafter, the struggle you're going to go through, all of this, you don't understand it. What recommendations would you give? Or is there any shortcuts you may know of how to learn Arabic? As myself, I'm going through trying to learn Arabic. You know, it takes a bit of effort. Yeah, slight difficulties. Any shortcuts, any things you did you might want to recommend to the brothers here, inshallah, who want to learn the Arabic language?
Okay, the first thing you need to know, you have to make your vision clear. What you want to get out. Is obviously to learn Quran and Sunnah. You need to strive for that. So what does that mean? You need to prioritize your needs and what you do. If you manage your time properly, then everything is possible. And when someone comes to me and tells me, oh, Akhi, this Arabic is so hard. It's not like English, just put in letters next to each other and makes up a word. Arabic, of course you have to join. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Okay, Allah does not impose upon any soul a duty but to extend of its ability. So it's an obligation upon us to learn Quran, to learn Sunnah, to learn Arabic. Then we are capable of doing it. Okay? Brothers, if you make the decision, you plan your day, you plan your course, how are you going to do it? Wallahi, from my experience, it will just happen like there's no tomorrow. Wallahi, so easily. What it needs from you is just to make that decision. The more you learn, the more sweetness you get. Wallah. I'm telling this from experience. And do it. And the ways to do it is that you organize a course, try to hang around with people, Arab people more often. I mean, Arab doesn't mean always to learn from them Arabic, but just to be in that environment. Invest in Arabic books, Arabic magazines, Arabic newspapers, okay? And now, alhamdulillah, we got technology, we got YouTube, we got the internet to actually help you while you're actually at home. But there are a lot of other ways as well, inshallah, but everyone has their own ways. And these are one of the things that I would recommend to brothers. Try to actually do that. Start it, okay? If you're spending your time on something else, now you have to prioritize, because you have an extra priority, a more priority in your life. You need to give that the time, okay? And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it for all of us.
You know, obviously, Arabic is a very important part of the Quran, as we've established here, inshallah. But the thing is, it's going to be a weird question. What's the difference between the Arabic and the Quran? See, if the Arabs today would speak as the Quran is recited, you know, we'll have some, you know, I think pretty much the whole world will turn to speak in Arabic. But we see a difference. You know, why is that difference? Why is the Quran much sweeter than when the Arabs speak Arabic, or when you speak Arabic?
Well, it's the same thing that I mentioned earlier. Quran has that miracle in it. Arab themselves will never be able to actually compete. However, we come into another topic, which is Tajweed. In that time, there was no Tajweed. There was no Tajweed in what sense? Is that Quran was revealed with Tajweed itself. And the people there, they were speaking classic Arabic. And they were picking up Quran very easily. So to them, it was a normal thing, okay, to pick up Quran and memorize it. Where did the actually change come in? Where did the actually uh, this importance of tajweed and ruling came in the time of Ali radiallahu anhu. In his time, when in Umar radiallahu anhu's time, when the Islam started expanding, in Uthman radiallahu anhu's time, in Ali radiallahu anhu's time, he actually felt the change in the people, the Arabs, their accent actually changed because non-Arabs became Muslims, and due to the mixture of the two, the Arabs and non-Arabs, the Arab lost their accent, the way they used to be, they used to speak, the classic way, and that's when actually the importance of the tajweed. That's when Ali radiallahu start putting a classic Arabic as a basic before you actually go into Quran, and ilm al-tajweed as another way of actually learning the Quran and reciting it the right way.
You yourself, obviously, this is something you personally had to learn yourself, isn't it? How did you come across, the learning of Tajweed? Where did you go to? What sort of experience did you have learning this Tajweed rules? And is it easy?
Nothing good is easy. But before I answer that question, I would like to just touch upon the importance of Tajweed. What is Tajweed and why do we need it? A lot of people, they're able to recite one or two surahs, that's it, they go around, like, that's it, they know everything. Really, this is, and some of us, they actually think like that. Since we are fluent in the Quran, that's why we go on as if we have a certificate of Quran. Tajweed is that ruling. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَرَتِّلُ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا. Recite Quran as it was supposed to be recited. What does that mean? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Jibreel alayhi salam to recite Quran, then Jibreel alayhi salam recites it to Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And in here, in the way, there is nothing changed. Nothing. Okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He orders the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam to actually pass this message on to people, lil-alameen, all the entire world. And do not change a single letter or a word. Okay? So how, since we know there are a lot of changes in accent, it's been what, 1400 years, and that classic Arabic is very hard to find right now. How can we actually, a non-Arab, actually get into that? Even Arabs themselves, they need to go through the tajweed to actually learn it. Because if in Arabic, if you change a small sound, or if you lengthen a letter or sound of a letter, it actually changes the entire meaning of the whole word. The whole word just doesn't mean anything anymore. And we need, that's a very important thing. You want to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you're saying things that doesn't make no sense. So the importance of Arabic for you to know the meaning is very important. The tajweed is even more important and an obligation upon every single Muslim and Muslimah. That is, they should learn tajweed in order to enable them actually recite Quran as the way it was revealed to Prophet ﷺ. Then if they didn't make no mistakes, and they didn't even dare to make mistakes, and they will always observe Prophet ﷺ day and night, then who are we not to actually go through the same steps? Are we better than them to be forgiven for the mistakes that we make? No. We need to go through exactly the same thing, and that's why tajweed becomes an obligation upon us. And There are many different ways to actually learn Tajweed. Okay? But the most important thing, now we have a lot of technology, we have YouTube, we have books and everything. Okay? That does not mean you sit in a corner and go through books. Really, brothers, don't waste your time just doing that. Buy a Tajweed book, then go into a course or a sheikh, okay, or an imam who is qualified. Okay, I'll explain later why am I emphasizing on imam who's qualified of reciting Quran. And these are the people that you should be actually reciting to, so they can perfect your recitation. Because sometimes you know, most of the time, you know the rule, the theory nice and easy, everything. You memorize the whole book, all lovely jubbly. But when it comes to recitation, when you recite, you actually putting that into practice is not the same. You're not going to hear it. You think you're saying it right, but there are a lot of mistakes. And the only way to perfect it is practice with a person who is qualified, who knows about Tajweed, who's gone through that. Okay, brothers? These are very important things that we need to pay our attention to.
You spoke about, standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reciting Quran, suddenly making a mistake, and it changes the entire word or the sentence itself. You spoke about also going out, getting their knowledge, but as we've seen that the Tajweed rules and actually learning how to pronounce it is a long process. For us who pray now, obviously we'll probably be making mistakes. What sort of, what sort of immediate actions do we take? Do we stop praying? What exactly would we be doing?
That's a really good question. Really good question. You cannot stop praying by any means anyway. Because what if someone embraces Islam and they don't even know Quran? This means they are forgiven to pray until they know Arabic and Quran? No. However, Tajweed, for you to take a step, okay, is that there are a lot of, alhamdulillah now, a lot of courses, a lot of people who knows Tajweed. Okay? The first thing I would advise brothers to actually invest in a Tajweed book. Listen to Quran. Or choose a sheikh or a qari and keep listening to it. Okay? And start ayah by ayah. You don't need to memorize the whole thing in one go because you want to be the top guy. It doesn't work. You need to surah, small surah by surah. Until you perfect it, go whatever imam you see. You're going to pray today you're going to pray in this mosque, tomorrow you're going to pray in another mosque. And wherever imam or sheikh you see, or a person you know they know Quran, you go and recite to them, tell them, just test me, just test me. And this is the way to actually perfect it. And these are the immediate action I would always advise brothers to actually take right now. Because it is time for for us to actually make that change. Because it is an obligation upon us to know the Tajweed. And then we work hard to learn Arabic, inshallah.
Well, we went through Tajweed, the beautifying of the Quran. Also, understanding it gives you that emotional benefits. It gives you that closeness to Allah. It gives you that khushu in salah. Also helps you out in troubled times as well. But are there any other rewards that you could gain from learning the Quran, learning the proper way of reciting? Any rewards here or any rewards in the hereafter? What sort of benefits does it have with it? Or is it just a recitation benefit?
Quran is full of rewards. Every single surah, even certain ayahs, has their own rewards. And their rewards are actually, sometimes your mind might not be able to actually understand it, how the level of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you want to speak about it, we can speak until tomorrow. and for a long time. However, there are few hadith from Prophet ﷺ which explains to people and the Sahabas the rewards. And one of them is Aisha radiallahu anha narrates that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Verily the one who recites the Qur'an beautifully and smooth and precisely, he will be in the company of the noble and obedient angels." The one who recites it precisely, nicely, with tajweed, with a beautiful recitation, he will be amongst one of the best angels. So how can this, is there something more better than that? When you come with the best of angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you walk with them, there cannot be anything better than that. And after that, Prophet ﷺ adds, "As for the one who recites with difficulty and stumbling through its verses, then he will have twice that reward. The one who actually finds it hard and difficult to actually recite, but he still wants to recite and still upon it, he gets 2 rewards, double." Now, brothers, do not misunderstand this hadith. This does not mean you lay back and relax because you want to keep getting the double rewards. It doesn't work like this. Seriously. You need to strive to understand Tajweed. But if you don't know it, okay, and you're still struggling with it, then you still get double the reward, but your ambition and plan should still be to be with the one who actually recites it in a beautiful way, in a nice way. Because Prophet ﷺ says in the next one, "It will be said to the companion of the Qur'an, read and elevate through the levels of paradise and beautify your voice as you did when you were in the world life. For verily your position in paradise will be at the last verse you recite." Okay, in paradise, your level, okay, your level will be at the last verse you actually recite. So brothers, if you recite Quran in this world, you're going to be asked to recite it in Jannah, and your level will be upper and more higher amongst the people who didn't know how to recite and therefore didn't recite a lot as much as you do. Okay? That's when your level is going to be higher than them. That's where the importance of Arabic, Tajweed, and reciting Quran comes in. Because you want your level to be right at the top. And not just that. Prophet ﷺ also said, "Read the Quran, for indeed it will come on the day of judgment as an intercessor for its companion." Quran will intercede for you. Some of your small sins, you will be forgiven. If you have a mountain of your sins on the right hand side, Quran will come and you slowly take that mountain out, some of the from your sins, until it's finished. Don't you want Quran to actually become the intercessor for you? Don't we want Quran to actually be a source of someone who goes to paradise straight? Then learn Tajweed and Arabic with it in order for you to understand. And not just that, Prophet ﷺ also says there's a surah in Quran, okay, that contains 30 ayahs, and which have interceded for a man until he was forgiven. This ayah interceded for a man until he was forgiven and until he was told, go and enter Jannah and stay there forever. And that surah is تبارك الذي بيده الملك, Surah Al-Mulk. That surah, that's the reward of just that surah. And we know we can go through a lot of surahs. Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Imran. If you recite in your house will be protected from shaitan. And all of the other surahs, they have more rewards and more rewards and more rewards. So brothers, the first step is to actually start knowing how to recite, how to understand Qur'an.
Sure.
Because there are rewards which we don't know about. And these are one of the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is given us. And we should always thank Allah for actually putting a love for this deen and for this book in our hearts.
To wrap it up, inshallah, we live here in the West, in a society where it's very materialistic, you know, do things where material benefit can be attained. And you know, Islam is mainly about benefits of the hereafter. Not taking away benefits of the dunya as well, but as a Muslim, we strive for the benefit of the hereafter. Especially in a society where somewhat books are thrown to the shows. You know, usually a book comes out, if it's any good, they make a movie, and more people watch the movie than read the book. What sort of advice can you give to these brothers, you know, ourselves, people on the web? You know, what sort of, you know, give us some motivation, inshallah, to help us carry on with reciting, learning, especially in this you know, situation we're in, inshallah.
The first, I touched up on this earlier. The first thing you need to understand, this Qur'an, this book, is a complete way of life. In a full dignity, in a full respect. If you are happy with your life without Qur'an, okay, there's a big problem. There's a big problem. You need to think about yourself, what's going on. Okay? Because we can see the ummah, what the ummah is going through. What is the reason why we're in this state? Don't you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that Allah raises a nation with this book and He brings another down with this book. Don't you want to be elevated with this Qur'an? So if your plan is, if the answer is yes, I do want to be that person, then you need to strike and strive in this. I know sometimes, you know, it could be hard, you have work to do and you can't do it, or you have somewhere else to go to. But for someone to say, I don't have time for Tajweed and to learn Arabic, Allah, it's no reason. You're just literally fooling yourself. Seriously. And the best advice for these kind of brothers is that we have internet, okay? Me personally, I have a teacher from Saudi Arabia, which I actually go face to face on Skype, I think it is, yeah. It's from Saudi Arabia, and he tests me in recitation over internet. And wallah, it's just amazing. Obviously, the face-to-face interaction physically is much better, but for something extra, if you can't do it at certain times, then you've got these means. Make the best out of it. Don't call technology a shaitan, just like some of our leaders do. Please don't. Make the best out of it, because it is a bounty and something nice that Allah has given us. And make the best out of it.